we were very happy to get the chance to interview independent research group leader and rising star in robotics, Georgia Chalvatzaki, on her passion for robotics and her career so far, including working with her Tiago robot in her Irosa Lab. So, over to Georgia to introduce herself and tell us more.
Okay, so my name is Georgia Chalvatzaki. I hold a PhD in electrical and computer engineering, in particular in the field of robotics and automation. I am currently an independent research group leader of the Intelligent Robotics for Assistance group here at the Technical University of Darmstadt in Germany. During my research years, I come from Greece, so I studied electrical engineering in the National Technical University of Athens, where I continued for my PhD with on the topic of assistive robotics in the Intelligent Robotics and Automation Lab there. Then in October 2019, I came here in the TU Darmstadt to work as a postdoc with Professor Jan Peters to focus on particularly on robot learning. That is, Jan Peters is one of the pioneers of this research direction. And yeah, from 2021, after a long process that almost lasted 1 year, I received a research grant so that I can start my own group here at TU Darmstadt to study the topic of mobile manipulation.
What inspired you to start a career in robotics, and was it your childhood dream to go into the field of robotics?
I wouldn't say that it was my childhood dream, but rather a teenager's dream. But of course, as a kid, I was fascinated by robotics and technology. I was a huge fan of the Jetsons and especially the robot Rosie. And yeah, it was something that as a kid, I would imagine, as a kid of the 90s, I was imagining that in the 2000s, we are going to have robots and flying cars. So I was imagining that what I was seeing in the cartoons, I am going to have it in the 2000s. Of course, when 2000s arrived and I was a teenager, I understood, okay, there was a misconception of timing there. I will tell you though why I decided to do robotics. It was basically when I was in high school and we had to do this project on cutting edge technologies. And it was out of luck that I had to do the topic on robotics and I had to research about robots and how they can be used in everyday life. Of course, imagine this in 2003 or something. It was still the AI wave was not so hyped as it is right now. So I started studying, reading different articles, and I did my research on this topic. I tried to fabricate also something, not very successfully, I would say then. But it was this, initial hint that basically I said, oh my God, I want to do this thing. As a kid, I thought, okay, maybe I will become a doctor or I will become a lawyer. It wasn't like, I was a good student. I didn't know what to do. And it was like this, by chance, I would say, that I found about this topic. I read about it and I said, okay, I want to do robotics. I cannot see myself becoming a doctor actually to help people. So I thought that doing a robot that can help people either in the hospitals or in the everyday life, it was what was inspiring me. And then this moment I said, okay, what do I have to do to become a robotics engineer? So I researched, I found, okay, if you go to the engineering and computer science schools, you can do it. I said, okay, what is the school in Greece that I can go? And basically that was it. All my consequent steps were all towards how am I going to achieve my dream of doing robotics? So this was it, the path.
Fantastic. Very interesting. I think amazing to know from a young age to decide on the path and to know, to have an idea and then to find out more about it and follow it.
Yeah, I would tell you, it wasn't easy, right? It was, for sure, it was very difficult. Also, I mean, for the context, imagine that during the undergraduate, I had to work to support my family and my studies. So it was very, very difficult to finish the school and be able to get the degree. And I will admit that sometimes I said, okay, I cannot do it. I cannot reach that point. I just want to finish, take the degree and do something else. But luckily I said, okay, no, follow your dream. Like, I know it's a bit cliche, but I said to myself, no, don't give up, follow your dream. Try to do a PhD in robotics and see where this will take you. And I am very, very happy that I didn't give up on this dream.
That's fantastic, and yeah, very inspiring. Indeed, very inspiring. You were recently awarded the Emmy Noether Programme of the German Research Foundation. And how will this award help your research plans?
Yes, indeed. So the research award I received, the Emmy Noether Grand, is, let's say, one of the most important grants that a young researcher can receive from the German Research Foundation in order to conduct original research work and to enable you to become independent. This means to start setting your own research directions as a research group leader. And this award provides me the means, which are, of course, the funding, but also the resources in the hosting university that for me it's TU Darmstadt, to conduct my research and have my own PhD students and also have my own robot that it is Tiago from PAL Robotics, so that I conduct my research. And this whole process that lasts 6 years enables you to become, let's say, a more complete research leader. And this can lead you to the direction of a professorship, hopefully in the long run. Since my dream is to become a professor and I want to follow this academic career path, I would say that this grant will be the one that will enable me to achieve this dream. So it's, I think, a very important step in my career.
Okay, fantastic. And how do you find it having your own research students, your own robot? Does it really enable you to achieve things that you didn't think would be possible otherwise?
I think, yes, the idea of becoming a research leader is about setting your own research direction, identifying okay, what is it missing in the research world, in particular for us, for intelligent robotic assistants, identify these things that are missing and try to do some steps towards achieving this long-term vision that we have of having the personal robot in our houses, in our workplaces, etc. Of course, it's not, again, an easy process because you have to mature also as a person to organize yourself, your research, and also organize the research of other people. But I think it's ultimately, it's the way that it enables to set your own, let's say, research agenda and really, really work hard into achieving these ideas and these visions that you have as a researcher. And this is what I am trying to do with Irosa.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, so I will go on to the next question now. How does the technical committee of mobile manipulation that you're a part of help shape the future of robotics?
Okay, thank you very much for this question. Indeed, I joined the technical committee just a few months ago. I was very happy about it, and it was a decision that I think was very, very important when you want to set a new research direction in this very challenging topic of mobile manipulation. We know that people tried to work on mobile manipulation also in the past, but there were many difficulties due to because the focus was more on building good controllers for robots, but there were so many other aspects in the uncertainty of the environment, the perception already, also from the hardware level, there were limitations. So right now we have this increasing opportunity to set up new directions, new research directions on this very challenging topic, to include learning together with classical robotics, to address the challenges of integrating multiple systems that they have to work together. So the Technical Committee of Mobile Manipulation has this mission, has the mission now to bring to the world this message that mobile manipulation is here. It's a very challenging topic, and it's one of the few ways, I think, that we can enable robots to become personal assistants in our houses, in our hospitals, into the elderly houses, for example. So I think that this will be the mission that we will try to send to the community, try to engage the community to participate more actively into this research direction, and all together keep pushing forward in this setting. Because in the past, I think we focused a bit more on separately manipulation and separately navigation, but I think that now we have the tools, we have algorithms, and we can push a bit more forward towards this direction of mobile manipulation.
Okay, brilliant, very interesting. Okay, so I will go on now to question number 4. How do you hope to use your role as KI Camp AI Newcomer?
Yes, this was a title that I was very humbled to receive by the German Informatics Society, in coordination with the German Ministry of Education. This title basically puts you on the spotlight. They say at least to the German society, look at those people that took this AI Newcomer award. They are going to do some nice things in the field of AI, and in particular for me in the topic of AI and robotics. So one mission for sure is to show to people that look, women can do robotics. Women can lead research teams. They can push forward this challenging topic that it is kind of a cliche for a woman to be working in this direction. So this is one thing that I want to deliver, that we can do all these things. We can work with robots. We can push this research direction further. And of course, through this title, apart from, of course, delivering the message about how I think my work on robot learning for mobile manipulation can give us more intelligent robotic assistants, I think I want to engage younger people into this research direction and show them that the things that I was watching as a kid in cartoons, etc., we can research on it. We can basically work on it to make it happen, of course, in the long term. But I would be very glad if I can get younger people inspired into working in science and engineering.
Can you tell us a bit more about what you've worked on to date at the Irosa Lab?
Yes. So in the Irosa Lab, that stands for Intelligent Robotic Systems for Assistance, what we are currently researching are the development of novel algorithms for a robust mobile manipulation. And this entails the coordination of the whole body of the robot. So both, let's say, head, arms, torso and the mobile base, so that we can use this as an advantage for manipulating objects of our everyday environment, like everything that we can find inside the household, and be able to robustly grasp them, manipulate them, like opening doors, closing drawers, anything that we can imagine that a mobile assistant, for example, that operates in a domestic environment should be able to do. But it's not only this problem that we are currently focusing on, but also the aspect of the interaction with the human. So we cannot imagine a robot that is operating in our houses without interacting with the vital elements that there are in the houses, that are the humans. So what I am also currently I focus a lot, and it's actually one of the research topics that I personally pursue, has to do with the intention recognition of humans. So if you are interacting with a human, if a human coexists with you, with a robot inside a room, for example, you should be able to predict the behavior of the human so that you can plan accordingly the actions of the robot. So this is one aspect. And also the other aspect, consider trustful and safe human-robot handovers. So we can imagine a robot, for example, in an elderly care house, that it fetches for, let's say, some medicine or some food to deliver to an elderly person. This should be handed over in a way that the human can be able to receive it and trust the robot that actually extends the arm to deliver something. And the robot should not only act in a way that can be trusted, but should be also always safe, because different people act with very different ways. So we have to create also a strategy for the robot to act safely and have some specific metrics. So this is also a part of my research, to combine not only manipulation of objects and taking advantage of mobility and dexterity of the robot, but also understand how to interact in a trustful and safe manner with the humans.
Which of your other projects, for example, Skills for Robots, RoboTrust, or SheRun, highlight your research to date and the research that you're currently working on?
Yes, I was very lucky from the moment I came to TU Darmstadt to work as a postdoc. I engaged directly into the projects that were currently running in the IIS, the lab of Professor Jan Peters. One of them was skills for robots and RoboTrust. In Skills for Robots, I basically focused a lot on the idea of accelerating manipulation skill learning. And this was a very important aspect, because we need this kind of algorithms when we have a robot operating in our domestic environments, when you want it to learn how to basically to learn to execute new tasks that are not pre-programmed from scratch. So this was one part. The other part of RoboTrust was actually a very fortunate event, because it was the project that introduced me to the first mobile manipulator that I've ever worked with. So although I have worked with humanoid robots and mobile robots and manipulators, I've never worked actually with a real mobile manipulator. So it was actually the project that put into perspective the idea of having a mobile manipulator as an assistant, and in particular how you can allow this robot, if, for example, it exists in a warehouse, to interact with a human coworker. And actually this work inspired me a lot into forming these research ideas that we are currently pursuing in the Irosa Lab. And of course, SheRun is another research project that again focuses on mobile manipulation, and in particular on teleoperation, teleoperability and shared control. In this particular case, it is a project that I am also collaborating with Jan Peters, in particular because it involves the usage of the Tiago robot that I have experience in, on how you can use with a minimum effort from the human, so the minimum teleoperation abilities that the human can do, how can you use this information so that a robot can operate, let's say, in a supermarket to get things for you, but you can still have some kind of perception through the robot and give him some feedback or whether he executes the tasks that you want him to do. But still you want this effort to be as low as possible. So it is very, very interesting because it is, again, human-robot interaction and shared control, but on a different perspective. And I am very, very eager that through all these projects and also through the Irosa, I can approach this problem on so many different levels.
What is Tiago++'s role in these projects, and which of the Tiago++ features have been especially useful in these projects and also in the Irosa Lab?
So the Tiago++, I would say, is the fundamental research tool for us in all these projects, since we are increasingly interested, as I told you before, on the integration of mobility and manipulability. First of all, regarding robot trust and Irosa, in particularly the idea of let's call it mobile grasping, the approaching of objects and creating algorithms to effectively plan how the robot should approach, how the pose of the robot should be so that the objects are always reachable to it. It's one important aspect of our research in these projects, and in particular for Irosa. In the Hero project, what is even more interesting is that we have to teleoperate for two arms. So we have to take into advantage the opportunities that Tiago++ give us through the bimanual setting that it provides. Because in essence, a human, when you do, basically, if I have to set it a bit differently, when a human operates, when a human manipulates, we without thinking, we use usually both hands, especially when we have to do some challenging, let's say, manipulation tasks. But for the robot, is not something that it is intuitive. And when you do teleoperation, you can expect that the human potentially, so through the teleoperation, the human will not only focus its attention to, let's say, the object that it operates, which is a part that we are going to control also in the robot, but we are also going to track how the human, for example, moves the hands while it wants to teleoperate. This means that we will have to control also the bimanual manipulation abilities of Tiago++ in order to achieve, let's say, the same experience for the user as if he or she was himself in the area that the robot will teleoperate. So I think all these different features of Tiago++ allow us to tackle different aspects of the different problems that we have in the different projects in the Irosa Lab.
Can you explain a little bit about the mobile manipulation hackathon that you're co-organizing?
Yeah, sure. I am very happy that my addition into the technical committee of mobile manipulation coincides with the organization of the second Irosa 2021 mobile manipulation hackathon that is being co-organized by the technical committee, but also in cooperation with PAL Robotics. In this particular hackathon, we call it is an open call to the research community to try to challenge their algorithms, their planners, or their perception tools by using either Tiago or Tiago++ into scenarios that are scenarios of everyday life. They can be scenarios of the domestic environment. It can be scenarios in a hospital, in a workplace, in a warehouse, whatever every team thinks it's important to showcase, not only how they are going to integrate specific tools that, for example, is already provided into the API of the robot, into the libraries of the robot, but also their own, let's say, tools, whatever they want to create for Tiago. And I think that this hackathon aligns very, very well to the mission that I said that also the technical committee has into showing, okay, mobile manipulation can do this, and this. This is the things that we can do in simulation. But what is super interesting is that even if the conference is virtual, the participants will have the opportunity to actually test their algorithms into the real robot setting, thanks to PAL Robotics providing the support for a virtual real robot challenge. And I think this will allow us to see that from the tools that we already have and that are currently being developed by research teams in mobile manipulation, we can see what is working, what is not working, and it will allow us to open also new research directions. So I think that this hackathon is pretty important for mobile manipulation.
How important are intelligent robotic assistants for our future?
I think that intelligent robotic assistants that can operate in houses, in hospitals, it's a very, very important milestone that we as engineers, as researchers should achieve in the near future. Let's take, for example, this situation that we are living, COVID-19 and quarantine and all this situation. We can see that the nursing staff in the hospital, it's very few. It's not sufficient for helping these people, especially in these very challenging times. You can imagine, for example, a mobile manipulator being able to provide the medication or check, let's say, the medical measurements on different patients without also having this risk of getting sick, because of course our nurses and our doctors are actually risking their lives every time they're interacting with patients, unfortunately. So you can imagine, first of all, this kind of operation. They can help them, they can feed them, they can give them their medicine. They can also be used in order to disinfect areas, which is also a very important thing, not only in the hospitals, but also in our working environments. I don't see us, even with the whole process of the vaccination, being able to go back to our real life without having specific protocols of hygiene and disinfection in our also working environments, in our supermarkets, everywhere. And of course, in our home environments, people had to stay in quarantine and stay alone for many days, and they couldn't have people coming in touch with them. In these cases, if you had a robotic assistant in your house, it would be able to deliver for you and care for you. And of course, the other very increasing problem is that it's not a problem, as I said, it's the challenge, I would say, is that the elderly population is increasing. It will be, if I recall correctly, 3 billion sometime soon. And the people that can take care of elderly people over 70, it's not enough, it's not there. So we need robotic assistants to also interact with the elderly, not only for delivering to them, but in some sense keeping them company. So it is a very important challenge for the future, for giving the opportunity to also to the humans. If the robots can replace some very, very risky tasks, then the humans will be able to explore also their possibilities in other areas, in other professions, etc.
How can robotics solve complex tasks, for example, for users in their homes?
This is a very, very challenging topic. It is the central topic for Irosa Lab. Currently, our robots can operate some, let's call them long horizon tasks, tasks that have multiple stages that need to be achieved, so that, for example, you can arrange the table in order to have lunch, for example. This is a long horizon task because you have to take multiple things and place them in a specific order, and also understand how to place them, right? You don't want to put, if you have to serve food, you cannot serve food without having the plate. So there is a whole logic, and not only the manipulation skills, but also the logic of executing all these tasks. And the increasing problem there is the uncertainty of the real environments, and also the increased complexity of all these logical concepts that exist, that for a human is a common sense, but for the robot is not there. We don't have this common sense that the robot can understand the very abstract sequence. And this is actually one of the major topics that we want also to conquer in Irosa, not only to learn the skills, but learn how to sequence them. And then how can we quantify this uncertainty? This will be a major issue for robotics for the next years to come, because our models still, our mathematical tools still, even if we did all this progress, they are not there yet. We are not there yet on having a very good quantification of uncertainty. And then if you have this, plan accordingly. So this will be one of the most important challenges of bringing the robots to real world environments.
How do you feel that robotics overall can make a positive contribution to humanity?
I think that robots that are being controlled and trained as we do in the Irosa Lab in order to operate in domestic and domestic environments, hospitals, etc., will actually have an increasingly positive feedback on society, in the human society. As I said before, it's not only about the lack of personnel that we have in hospitals and in everyday care. Also our lives are becoming hectic. The hours that we are spending in our works, the different, let's say also hobbies that a human wants to do. The everyday time, the everyday living, let's say, is a bit too crazy, and it will become even more different, I think, in the next years compared to how it was in the 90s, I would say. So I think that having robots that can execute tasks in your household, that can take care of elderly, that can help in hospitals, will allow humans to have the time to find other interests, to perform their hobbies, to work more, let's say, in art or in music, in other aspects that we, let's say, leave aside because we have just too many things to do, or because this is how modern life is. And I think that this is an increasing aspect that we should take into perspective of, several things potentially will be done by robots in the future, but this gives an increasing advantage to humanity to find out how can we use this, the fact that we will have a robot fixing our house, for example, in the future, how can we use this time into advantage to bond with our friends, to do extra activities, to study different things that can take humanity to a different level. So I'm very positive, honestly, about the impact of robotics in the future in the human society.
That sounds great, and I hope it will go that way, and we will have more time for hobbies and learning new things. That would be Very nice. If we can
Yes.
on that definition. Which challenges do you imagine that robotics will face in the next 10 years?
I think if we take into account the whole aspect of robotics, there are far too many challenges to consider. If we think about aerial robotics, underwater robotics, search and rescue, there are far too many things to be conquered. One important thing, as I think I stressed it again before, is the uncertainty. One important aspect that we need to conquer is the coupling of perception with robotics, embodied perception, as we call it, the way that a robot perceives the world as also a human perceives the world through their eyes and through their hands, through all their senses. One increasing challenge is how can we use different sensorial information that the robot carries on its body in order to perceive the world, try to understand how the world changes, build models of the world, and then plan on how to act. This is an increasing challenge that spans to all, I think, robotics. And the other fact that it is a very important challenge for let's say, these years that we are doing research is also the high dimensionality. Our robots have been able to solve tasks when you are operating in a very structured setting, like the beam picking, for example, where basically you are very constrained and the operations are very, very limited. But if you want to operate in a free space, the numbers that you can, the number of ways that you can approach an object, the number of ways that you can plan your robot to like open a door, there are many, because it's high dimensional, the world that we are living in, and trying to control and operate in this big dimension, this high dimensionality, it's a very big challenge, and is actually something that we hope that we can make a contribution in the near future.